Thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Monday, April 4th edition of our video devotionals, and we appreciate you being with us today. Got a beautiful day here in central North Carolina. I think this week we're supposed to be getting close to 80, and we've had some pretty cool temperatures, very windy conditions, but we're getting to what we think is more like what we think April should be like. But they do say April showers bring May flowers, so we'll see how that pans out. Otherwise, hopefully everybody's having a good Monday, and we do call this Marvelous Monday. First day of the work week and school week again, and the Lord's allowed us to be able to get here, and that's a good thing. I was able to spend some time with some pastors and some candidates that's running for public office for the state of North Carolina and also for Randolph County, and heard some wonderful speaking in regards to what we can do about our nation regarding elections and different things and all that's related there. And it was a wonderful time, and I enjoyed that. And I got to hear Brother David Gibbs. He's one of my favorite speakers, but he's been part of the Christian Law Association as an attorney and has helped countless thousands and thousands of people in churches when it comes to issues in which churches may need help in the legal sense. So very good time. I enjoyed that, but we got back a little bit later, but that's okay. That's why we're being a little bit later here with our devotions. Otherwise, we're going to get started here. We're going to be in the book of 2 Samuel chapter 12. If you want to find that, then we'll read just one verse. I believe it's verse number 23. 2 Samuel 12:23 lets you find that. Otherwise, we appreciate everybody who watches our videos. As I mentioned last week, we're tagging only those that's requesting to be tagged. I think it's better that way. There's a lot of people I was tagging. I didn't have anybody complaining about it. As I mentioned before, it's been a long, long time ago, back when I first started these devotions. One person said, and they wasn't nasty about it, they just said, I just prefer not to be tagged with your devotions. I said, fine, and I did not tag them. So I know there's some people that wanted to be and didn't care to be, but I am going to try to do those that asked to be tagged. So if you're listening to this or have listened to it and you say I want to be tagged, then you can certainly let me know that. I think I've had 15 to 20 have told me that, so you'll be tagged, of course, today. Some of our listeners already get it through YouTube directly, so you're a subscriber, so you don't need to be tagged. But, however you need to do it, just letting you know if you're normally being tagged and you're not suddenly not being tagged, has nothing to do with me saying, well, I just don't want to tag you. It just has everything to do with me not tagging some folks that may not care to be tagged, and we'll just leave it at that, okay? All right, so at this point in our Bible reading here, David, of course, had Uriah, the husband to Bathsheba, killed. He had stayed home from battle. They committed adultery together. She is with child. God is about to judge that sin that David committed, and part of that judgment, of course, involves the death of the child between David and Bathsheba. So at this point, David is going to find out that the child dies. I want you to notice what it says here in verse 23. Actually, we'll read verse 22 and 23. David is speaking to the people that he realizes the child has just died, and he said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether God will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. So on this Monday, when, sometimes it can be a little bit sluggish for people, and it's a Monday, then here's a good reminder to us as Christians. We've all got loved ones that have passed on to heaven, and they're there. Just like in this case, this little child dies, and David says, well, he's not going to come back to me, but I'm going to be able to go to him. So I just want to remind all of us as believers that we all have people, as we say, the other side, but we're talking about heaven. We're talking about believers that are in heaven. In some cases, there's people that's listening to this, or you will listen to it, and you've had loved ones that's been gone for many, many years. Some of you that's listening to this, no doubt, has a child in heaven that has passed, and you'll see that child one day as a believer. And I know me and my wife, we've had no children, but my wife was with child for a little period, and we went to the doctor. We were so excited after years and years and years not having a child or any children, and then the doctor was excited to say, you're going to have a child. Come back the next day, we're going to do an ultrasound, and we're going to check conditions there, and we found out the child was no longer living. That was hard. It was tough, but I believe this. we'll see that child one day. And we've been reminded of that by people that say, look, this is a child you've never met, never seen. But except for a little picture on the ultrasound, we still have that little pictures in my office, actually. And I know this is kind of sensitive for especially my wife. But, we're okay with that. God says, look, I'm the giver of life. I'm the taker of life. And all that to say, one day we're all going to see loved ones. Now, some of us have loved ones that we've known all of our living life, and then they pass. And we're talking about mothers, fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers. I think about the very spot that I'm doing this devotion. My grandfather and grandmother lived here, and I live in the very same spot. I'm going to be doing a garden in the very same place my granddaddy did. And I can remember, I could literally look this direction as I'm pointing, and I've given this illustration. I guess it's okay to give it now, but I remember the day that and I've said this in many sermons, my granddad says we're going to go lay off some rows, which means we're going to go out here to this garden spot and we're going to make rows to start planting things. And I think the rows that we literally were going to lay off were for corn, but we needed to plow these rows. And he had a mule. He said, I'm going to show you how to do this. And I believe the old mule's name was Beck. It was his daddy's mule, old Beck was. And so he hooked up that old mule with all that harness, such a complicated looking thing to me at the time. And then he had the plow, and he says, here's what we're going to do. He says, you're going to guide it, so to speak. And I'm gonna have the plow here, and I'm gonna put my hands on the plow, and I'm gonna put the plow in the ground. The mule's gonna take off, and here's what you need to know. Now, not many people know this, but some of you that maybe have some age on you, or you've been around horses or mules, you'll understand this. He says, when you want that mule to go to the right, you're gonna say G. And when you want it to go to the left, you're going to say ha. I know it doesn't make any sense. I guess it's just some kind of code, G and ha. And of course, I knew what whoa meant. That means to stop, and or whoa back, and that mule would back up, and we started right here. I'm looking at the very place where that garden was at, and we started laying off the road. And the scary part about it is we need straight ones, so we're going to start right here, and we're going to go that direction. When we get to the end of this field, we're going to see how good we did. And of course, I was young. I was about 11 or 12, and the rows wasn't too straight. He says, well, we're going to have straight rows, and we'll redo that. So he went through the same spot, kind of knock out the curve, so to speak. But all that to say, my grandfather, he's in heaven now, and my grandmother's in heaven. And as I walk around this property and think about them, look, I don't have to say to myself, well, I'm glad I saw them one day and knew them, but that's it. No, I can say, you know what, they're not going to come back here to me, but I'm going to go to see them. My mother, that's been on this property, she lived just literally a stone's throw from this property, and grew roses, and she was living and my uncle used to live in that home. And so all that, so I've got relatives. Now, my uncle's still living, and his wife, Kathy, and but there's people that are in heaven that we're going to be able to go and see again. So on this Monday, when a lot of things can be going on with problems and cares and concerns, let me just say this. There's people, and thank God that Jesus provides salvation where people can believe. And thank God for families that pass this kind of down. You're influenced by people who are Christians, and I'm a Christian because my family was Christian, and I want to be able to influence others myself. But all that to say, as David says, this child's not coming back to me, but I'll go to see that child. And so if you're out there that have loved ones already in heaven, or you may have someone that's getting ready to pass, let me remind you that as a believer in Christ, and they as a believer in Christ, guess what? You're going to be able to go to see them. And isn't that great? So we'll kind of close with that thought today. We'll see you tomorrow on Thankful Tuesday. Hope everybody has a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.